Hi, I'm Jill Bernard from Huge Theater in the United States, and I would like to know more about improv that is not in the United States. So I'm making a video series of interviews in which I talk to one person in another country to at least get one point of view on how improv started in their home country. Today we're talking to Nasir Engineer about India.
Hi everyone, my name is Nasir. And Nasir Nash, though it says here, is not my full real name. My full real name is Nasir Engineer. Uh, so it's just my Facebook name that I have over here. And I've been doing improv for the past 10 years in India. Started off doing improv in Bombay, moved to Bangalore, and now I am back again to Bombay. Improv is something that has had its impact on me both in my personal life and professional life, since I have improv as the thing that I have my most experience in out of anything else that I've done in my career. So that is me in a nutshell for the time being. So before I answer that, I just wanted to tell the viewers that my information and perspectives may be my own, which are of my own experience.
Disclaimer, disclaimer.
So you can use these insights as a great way to get a general sense of idea of improv in India, but definitely don't use it as the absolute facts. All right. So now coming to your question, um, I first started doing improv in 2010 in Bombay, and my instructor back then was Adam Dow, and he's actually from Seattle, and he's been doing improv from Unexpected Productions. So he moved to Bombay a few years ago in order to make his own independent documentary film on Bollywood. And with that, he saw the scope for improv, which had never kind of existed in India before. And Bombay being like the hub of cultural activities for the whole of India, he kind of put together a few workshops and then gradually formed a group which was called Improv Comedy Mumbai. And now in 2010, when I kind of signed up for his workshop, the performance brought, and when as soon as I, as this young fresh graduate who kind of didn't have experience of much even talking to girls when I was in college, was put into a room with 8 9 other people who looked like they were professionals, actors in some sort. I was nervous and excited at the same time. And from there, as I started to understand more and more improv, I realized that what we were doing was short form improv. And this was more of the whose line style of improv, where everything was more or less fun games in order to entertain not only the audience, those fun games that we play to entertain and laugh, make the audience laugh, but also to kind of help us laugh amongst ourselves as well. So short form improv is what I would say was like the starting point of improv over here. So it was a group mix of actors, theater actors, camera actors. I remember there was even an RJ who was at the workshop, an RJ along with his son, if I'm not wrong, um, and a few business professionals also. Those who were in the working professional industry but hadn't done any kind of performance. So it was a great mix of people of all types.
Had you all seen Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes, yes. I particularly loved Whose Line. I would watch it at home, having my dinner, watching Whose Line when I was younger on TV. So I kind of instantly connected when the workshop said, okay, you're going to learn how to do this thing that the guys on Whose Line Is It Anyway do. I connected because at that point in time, I didn't know what the word improv meant. So whose line was the only connecting point for me. What makes improv or the things you do in improv a little more Indian is firstly the language, Hindi. The second, Hindi comes in. I think people sort of become this very local Bombay type of a person, and those people are hilarious. If you're ever in Bombay, you would see that it's a funny lot of people. And the second you kind of use the language Hindi by itself, there are these body languages that come about, the mannerisms, and it's all very culture specific over here. Things that are good, things that are not so good, both kind of come together. The good things being um, you kind of get to play out these very dramatic kinds of characters who stare like they are kind of in slow motion without blinking. It kind of helps build confidence also in a way. Or you can play out these very villainous type of roles, the ones that walk with uh, like the muscular types, and it's all very typical hero centric characters. And the not so good types are the ones where you kind of have people who spit a lot, who sort of end up making a few stereotypical comments about a person's character and those. So you have both those sides as well. So once I did uh, land in my first improv workshop, which was 2010. It was all about kind of finding my way uh, to do, not just learn how improv is done, but also to fit in as an individual with this group who were trained actors who had a lot more of a wittier personality, who were kind of easygoing, would be able to socialize easily. So there was a lot of that I had to work on in order to just kind of gel with everybody. And with that, as I kept doing shows, kept growing as an individual, um, the overall improv scene, at least in Bombay, kept growing to the point where there were many new students coming in, many new students who would then be trained to perform, who would then spread the word of improv to their friends, bring in them to see performances. So that is more or less what I kept seeing in Bombay. Not to mention, also a big landmark was when um, Adam, since he's from Seattle, he would take a ensemble group from India, from Bombay, to the US. So one of the performances that the ensemble did was a Bollywood improvised Bollywood show. This was in Amsterdam for the Amsterdam Improv Festival. Once in Canada, another time in the US. So Germany as well. So those are big landmarks between 2010 and 2015. Then in 2015, once I moved to Bangalore, I kind of I broke away from this Bombay scene of things, but I did want to continue improv. So I started out with a new group called Improv Comedy Bangalore. There, with a few people who I knew and trusted, we started building a community from scratch. And one thing led to another because I felt like so passionate to take improv to newer and newer heights. Since I had those decisions I could do, I could act on them. I went in full charge, and 2017 is when we got invited to perform at the Chicago Improv Festival, which turned out to be that it was the first time an Indian team was ever invited over there, and that broke news. in India in the performance circles. It was marvelous. We got press coverage for it that the Indian team is performing on at the second city stage. So that felt enormous. That was a big landmark moment in not just in terms of the hard work and effort we put in, but also for Indian improv. That is where we met the lovely Jonathan Pitts, who is still a great friend and a mentor for us today. Then in 2018, um, a few of us organized the India's first improv festival in the city of Bangalore, and it was called the Bengaluru Improv Festival. And we had performers and instructors from across 7 countries come participate. Another big milestone to have an improv festival in India for the very first time, and to have all these instructors who had probably never heard of improv in India, who took the risk of coming even when there was very little financial gain that they could make from it. So I can't thank them enough that they believed in it, that they took the flights that they did, came down to the city, and took part in this 5-day festival. So that was another big thing. I can never really stop thinking about how these things actually played out. I mean, now that it's all over, when I look back, I can't really gather myself to think how it is that this was possible. So yeah, these are some of the big landmark achievements in improv. Before I forget, because of the festival, I got to realize that there are many other groups in the country that did improv. Different cities that I never knew had groups that existed before. Um, and it's amazing to know that these groups were independently doing their improv without anyone ever knowing, okay, there is improv happening in a city C, improv happening in city D, whereas it was all Bombay and Bangalore. Uh, the 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 entire improv community was known to be belong to just Bombay and Bangalore. And once these different groups came down from these tier two cities, from these different cities, it felt like, okay, improv is booming here in India. It is thoroughly booming. Everybody was intermingling. Everybody realized, you do improv, you do improv. I'm coming to your city next. I'm coming to your city next. Connections, international connections were built and they stayed. My God, it's. I'm just thinking about it right now, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Initially, when I did my shows, it was in bars, and bar pros are the worst. Jill, they are the worst. Uh, People holding their drinks, looking at you as if you've been paid to entertain them, and if a second goes where they don't laugh, they start heckling. So those are the worst, but those are where exactly we started off doing our improv. Um, Even a few years later, there were venues where there was food and drinks being served where we kind of had to do our improv because theaters are very traditional over here. They kind of rope in performances that are known to be that proscenium kind of performances, scripted and have a theater group and all of that. So we had to kind of work our way to performing in cafes, restaurants, bars, to eventually booking our own auditorium. And that happened 5 years after I first started doing improv. When we finally were able to book our own auditorium, is when we felt like we have the stage, we have the lights, we have an audience that is watching a theatrical performance. So it took a while, but we eventually reached there. Um, and of course, that didn't stay. so for a very long time, because it's all kind of very variable. The financial costs, so on and so forth, also come into play. So it keeps interchanging. Whenever we can perform in an auditorium, it's an auditorium. Whenever not, we kind of look for a good deal with the venue, even if it's a venue that is a cafe or a restaurant. It's always the case where back then and even now, it's usually friends and friends of performers who are the ones who are normally there to see the performances. And they usually don't sort of question what is this improv, what are you doing. They just come to see you, irrespective of the performance. Now the battle becomes where you're trying to get an audience which which is not related to you. They don't know you in any which way. And that's always been the challenge, always, from day one to right now. So we always kind of employ these marketing strategies where we uh, push the comedy bit more. We try to make it seem like, okay, this is comedic, you're going to come, you're going to be entertained and laugh. And that sort of draws in an audience, but still, in some respect, it kind of becomes a little difficult when you have stand-up comedy, which is ruling audiences right now. Stand-up comedy performances, they have the pull. Uh, People easily get popular with stand-up comedy. Uh, Stand-up comedians usually have a lot of videos that they upload, which gets millions of views, and it's a thing. It's a thing where, okay, you know you're guaranteed entertainment in a stand-up comedy show. Improv is still maybe not. It's all improvised. Maybe not improv. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I don't know fully what it is. I don't want to go check it out. Maybe I'll go for something else. That's sort of what the audience kind of debates over. So we have always struggled to get an audience. And um, just kind of using improv as a way to um, talk to people also is becoming difficult. Because every time I speak to someone new and I say, okay, I do improv, the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, okay, it's a stand-up comedy. So no. I'm like, no. That's not it. Even to this day, and I use the word improv, yet they will respond with stand-up comedy. It's like they're not really even trying to understand it. So what I usually do is I use the words spontaneous. I use improvisation, the full word, um, and comedy especially. So these kind of help the audience understand. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So yeah, that's the thing. Okay, I have an answer from looking at it from two ways. One is just the individual who is doing the improv, and two, the technical side. Um, Now, in India, of course, I am able to gel. I can easily, because of our common culture and the environment that we're in, I'm able to gel well with the individual. And we sort of develop this camaraderie on a quicker basis. So I love that. I mean, the hard work is done. And then from there, we can sort of figure out how to play along the improv game, how to bring in the comedy. And I also like the explosive nature of Indian improv. It Everyone on the improv stage in India, they are like very. They come in with this high energy. They're like, okay, let's do it. I'm ready to play this game. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to bomb. I'm going to do shit on stage. Doesn't matter. I want to do this improv thing. So they've come in with all that energy, and that's what I also like about improvisers in India, and that they kind of like just dive in, um, irrespective of the technical skill. Okay, that's a very detailed thing, which one, when they kind of give it time and duration, will be able to figure out. But even for people who kind of um, uh, just are there to have fun. In terms of new things, I would say that there are a lot of now improv programs that are being developed for the online online world, for the digital space rather. And although I'm not a big advocate of doing improv online, I still am much in appreciation of the groups that are doing it. One of them is Kaivalya Plays. A big shout out to them. Kaivalya Plays are from Delhi, and they are really breaking barriers by doing so many different kinds of improv performances online. I also did one, in fact, now that I think about it, because I'm a big fan of cinema, and I always kind of, my inspiration for improv comes from movies a lot. I love the way that there's crisp dialogue, there's a lot of non-verbal communication, good editing. So I did this performance called the Blockbuster, where a few of us, we were given predetermined characters, and the entire structure of the story was set scene by scene by scene. The only thing is, everything within it had to be improvised by them. So it was uh, an improvised show, but not necessarily improv. So I did this blockbuster movie thing where whoever's watching online would get an entire experience of a movie with background score, with good lighting effects that every character had. I also had an intermission with an end credits at the end that scrolled up the screen. So I did that, and I absolutely loved it. It was 2 months' effort. So I think that that was also a big thing, which at least I am very happy about that I did. So the new frontier that I see is that uh, for now, all that I can see is a lot of new collaborations for improvisers in India to get in touch with maybe cherished improvisers they have probably seen in videos, heard about, but now they can actually talk to them, communicate with them, just as I am right now with you, Jill. And it's going to be a thing that everybody's going to be very excited about, to continue doing collaborative work with people all across the world.